Hello? Hello. As you can tell, I look a little bit different today. Is it my hair? I had some technical difficulties with my intro, so I had to improvise because I really wanted to get this up. I am back in Bitmoji form to share with you another polygel tutorial. Really love how this turned out. I hope that you guys enjoy it as well. As always, everything that I use will be listed in the description box below. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you for subscribing and staying subscribed. Hope to see you in my next video, and let's get into it. My natural nails are looking good today. The cuticle area is already pretty clean, so I won't need to use my Sally Hansen Instant Cuticle Remover, though I always recommend it. Sometimes I get comments asking what I'm resting my hand on as I work. This is just a little Crumb vacuum that I keep on my workstation to clean up any dead skin and nail clippings. I'm just gonna gently push back whatever little cuticle I have, and then I'm gonna clip my nails. Next, I'm using a gentle nail file to rough up the surface of my nails slightly, and then I'm wiping off the excess dust with a little bit of alcohol on a lint-free wipe. I'm going to be using my new favorite tips for today's look. I found these on Amazon, and what I love about them is that they're quite curved and long, which makes them more narrow than a square shaped tip, so the finished look isn't going to be super bulky. So I'm just sizing these to my natural nails, making sure they fit from sidewall to sidewall. And when working with super curved tips like this, if you can't find your exact size for your nail, it's always best to size up than to size down so that you don't warp the tip when you're pressing it down against your natural nail. Once I've got my tips picked out, I'm just etching the inside part that will adhere to my natural nail using an e-file. You don't have to do this using an e-file, you can use an acid-free primer. I decided to do both because these tips are a bit on the thicker side. And now I'm just using my Wonder Bond nail glue to adhere the tips to my natural nails. These are quite long and beautiful, and while I wish that I could rock these for the gram, I would end up in the emergency room within 24 hours. So I will be trimming these down to a more manageable length, at least for myself. Like I said, these tips are a bit on the thicker side, so I'll be using my sanding band to file down the height of my tip where it meets my natural nail, avoiding contact with my natural nail. And then I'm filing away the shine off of the rest of the tip with a worn down 180 grit file. Once I've filed off the shine, I'm wiping the excess dust off my nails with some alcohol on a lint-free wipe. So at this point, if you want your polygel manicure to last a long time, you'll want to prep the natural nail by applying a dehydrator, followed by an acid-free primer, followed by a foundation base gel, and curing it. I do not want my polygel to last a long time because I need to take it off a couple days after filming this so that I can move on to my next tutorial. I will be skipping the dehydrator and the acid-free primer. However, I did want to share a little trick with you. When I want to make sure that there is a smooth blend between my natural nail and the tip, I apply a little bit of acid-free primer right where the tip meets my natural nail. This kind of breaks down the tip a bit and melts it into my natural nail, which is what I want. Next, I'm applying my Peel Off Base Coat by ASP. I shared this with you guys in my last polygel video. Basically what this does is it makes any gel product that is applied over top of it peelable, which is great for anybody who likes to frequently switch out their gel manicures, or for those of us who love polygel but know that it is the absolute devil to remove. So I just applied that to my natural nails, let it sit for a minute to dry down, and then I apply my foundation over top, and I cure it in my LED lamp for 45 seconds. Alrighty, the girls are prepped and ready to go. Now it's time to decide what polygel I want to use. I wanted to do a minty French fade, so I pulled this Makartt shade in the number 894 that came in my green kit that I picked up off of Amazon. It is very pretty on its own, but it's a little bit on the sheer side, so I squeezed a bunch of it out on my little palette here, and then I mixed a bit of my white polygel into it just to make it more opaque. As always, I'm using 70% alcohol as my slip solution because Makartt polygel is sticky as hell. So I'm just picking up a bit of my premixed polygel with my picker tool and placing it at the center of my nail. I'm dipping my brush into the alcohol and I begin blending it. I'm gently applying pressure, guiding the polygel down the tip of my nail. And about halfway through doing this, I realized that my polygel is almost the exact color of my mini Crumb vacuum. Once my tip is decently covered, I start to slowly blend the polygel up towards my natural nail, creating a feathered effect. I find the best way to get a nice gradient is to blend in one direction and then apply slightly less pressure and blend in the opposite direction. You'll see me doing that quite a bit in this video. Once I'm happy with the first layer, I cure it in my LED lamp for 45 seconds, and then I move on to my second layer, which is basically just filling in any spots that are a bit too sheer. And don't worry about that gradient being perfect because we'll be going over it with a peachy shade next and with a clear layer that will cap the whole nail later on. Once that's cured for 45 seconds, I'm moving on and using another Makartt polygel in the shade Daydream. This is a light peachy shade, and I will start by applying a small bead at my cuticle and blending it out. I like to do this first to give the cuticle area a natural look before blending it down the rest of my nail. So I'm going to pop that in my LED lamp for 45 seconds, and then I'm taking a larger bead and I'm placing it closer to my apex, blending it out around my cuticle area, pressing it down from sidewall to sidewall, and just slowly working it down my nail so that it melts into the mint shade. I'm not pulling the peachy shade all the way down my tip, just below where the mint shade begins. I say this in pretty much all of my polygel videos, but the great thing about polygel in particular is that it allows you all of the time in the world to finesse it and perfect it until you're happy with it, making it super beginner friendly. It does take a bit of practice to get used to it because it is quite sticky, but you don't feel rushed when you're working with it, thus making the process more enjoyable. Anyway, once I'm happy with the blend, I'm popping it in my LED lamp for 45 seconds, and then I'm wiping the sticky layer off with a little bit of alcohol, and I'm moving on to my next nail. If you guys haven't tried wearing a glove on the hand doing all the work, I would highly recommend it, especially when you're working with polygel. I sometimes get comments asking like what's up with the glove because I didn't always wear one. One, it makes me feel like a professional, which I'm clearly not. And two, I used to get shit all over my skin throughout the process of working with polygel, and constantly wiping and washing my hands dried them out, so now I can't work without one. One downside to wearing a glove though is that it gets hella sweaty in there, so I have to take little breaks to air that bitch out. I wear a glove on my left hand when I'm doing my right hand as well. Okay, I think that's enough out of me. I'm gonna let you enjoy the rest of this process. Okay, here is where we're at. The gradient blend is looking pretty good from where I'm sitting. Capping the nail in clear will diffuse any little imperfections that you may have in your blend. I'll be using Makartt's clear polygel to cap my nails, and I'm getting myself some fresh 70% alcohol, and this time I'm just squeezing the clear right onto my nail and blending it out as evenly as I can. Capping your nails in clear not only diffuses any imperfections you may have, but it also protects all the hard work that you just did once we move on to filing and shaping. And again, the clear layer doesn't have to be perfectly even. More is definitely more in this instance because the goal is to protect the French fade underneath. Any lumps and bumps can be easily sorted out with filing and shaping. So at this point, my nails are kind of channeling duck feet nails circa the early 2000s, and that's really not the look that I'm going for. So I'll be moving on to my favorite part of this whole process, which is filing and shaping. I've got my dust collector ready to go, and I will be filing and shaping with a fresh 180 grit file and a buffing block. I prefer to file and shape using a hand file over an e-file because I think it gives me more control over what I'm doing. Polygel is pretty soft, so it doesn't require a whole lot of pressure when working with a hand file. What I focus on most when I file and shape is cleaning up the sides, narrowing out the nail, especially around the tip, while also maintaining a strong, rounded apex. I always fast forward through this process because I completely zone out when I'm doing this and I just like go to town. But if you would like to see a slowed down version of what exactly I do when I file and shape, let me know in the comments. I can do a dedicated video just on this process. It's taken me a little while to get the hang of shaping my nails to absolute perfection and avoiding filing the shit out of the skin around my nails, but I think if you have your shaping game down, even if your polygel looks crazy once you've applied it, you can always clean it up with a good shaping sesh using a hand file.
I want you to know that with you I feel whole, and if this could last forever, I wouldn't have any other way. I want you to know that with you
In addition to filing and shaping, I always like to clean up underneath the nails, especially when working with polygel, because little bits always end up curing underneath my nails. So to do this, I'm using my Kiara Sky 5-in-1 fine drill bit. In my last polygel French fade video, I showed you guys a little trick that I like to do to make the fade look perfect, and I figured it was worth sharing again here. Although my fade looks pretty good, if yours doesn't, what you'll need is an ombre brush and a shade of gel polish that best matches the shade at the cuticle. I'll be using OPI's gel polish and put it in neutral to do this, as it's almost identical to Daydream by Makartt. I'm just applying a thin layer from my cuticle down to where the fade begins, and then I take my ombre brush and I gently feather it over the faded part of my nail where the peach meets the mint. This shade is pretty sheer, so by the time I drag it down to the minty part, it's almost translucent, so it won't alter the shade of the minty part of the nail. Then I cure it for 45 seconds, and I go over the whole nail with my non-wipe top coat by Kiara Sky. I ended up doing this to the rest of my nails so that they match, and then I applied my Kiara Sky non-wipe top coat and I cured them in my LED lamp for 45 seconds. After I apply my top coat, I always like to give my nails one last file on the sides and the tips to make them nice and crisp and sharp, and then I finish off by hydrating the skin around my nails with my cuticle oil. And that completes this tutorial. I know I always say this, but I absolutely love how these turned out. If I didn't have to remove them to move on to my next look, I would have tried rocking these for the full 3 weeks. I did take them off a couple days after filming this, and the removal was flawless thanks to the peel-off base coat underneath. Anyway, I really hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. As always, everything that I use will be listed in the description box below. Thank you guys very much for watching. Thank you for subscribing and staying subscribed, and I'll see you in my next one. Okay, love you, bye.